So back when Hoka's shoe lineup was a little bit simpler, they had the Tracer as their racing flat, the Clifton as a great everyday trainer, and then in between the two they had the Clayton, which was their up-tempo trainer. The Clayton was replaced with the first version of the Mach, and now we're on the fourth version of the Mach. And we're going to see, with all these other Hoka shoes to choose from, is this still the best up-tempo trainer that will fit well in between shoes like the Rocket X and the Clifton. So after 100 miles and putting this shoe through various paces and different types of runs, I'm ready to give you my full review. So throughout this review I'll be using my Stoplight review system, which means if I give it a green light, that's going to mean there are more pros than there are cons. If I give it a yellow light, that means that the pluses and minuses are about equal, and if I give it a red light, then there are more dislikes than there are likes. This shoe was provided to me by Hoka for the purpose of review, but that has no influence over my thoughts or opinions of the shoe. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the review. So let's start with the upper. I found the length of the Mach 4 to fit true to size. I didn't have to crank down the laces or worry about heel slipping. I just put the shoe on and it fit my foot like a glove. I have a slightly narrower foot, but I found this to feel roomier than other shoes, especially the Clifton 7. Although the upper is pretty simple and free of overlays, it hugged my midfoot nicely, and I think that the partially gusseted tongue definitely helped with this. But even when making sharp turns, my foot felt locked in. The upper is made out of a soft and flexible engineered mesh. The material never caused any hot spots, the ankle had enough padding to be comfortable on longer runs, and the tongue had enough padding to protect the top of my foot from the pressure of the laces. So the upper of the Mach 4 is relatively light, but it doesn't have very large openings to allow air through. It is honestly very similar to the upper material found on the Carbon X2, and while I never felt like my feet would overheat, they weren't the breeziest of uppers either. Alright, now let's talk about this new midsole. So as is true with most models from Hoka, the Mach 4 has a lot of cushion. Although it isn't as much as the Clifton, I'd still consider it a maximally cushioned shoe, especially since it has a stack height of 35mm in the heel and 30mm in the forefoot, including the sock liner. The midsole of the Mach 4 uses a redesigned ProFly construction. That means that the top layer is softer and the bottom layer is firmer. I thought that the top layer felt very soft and bouncy, and it reminded me of the CMEVA in the Rocket X. The bottom layer also acts as the outsole, so it's a firmer rubberized EVA, but the two work well together to add a responsive pop to the shoe. And I found this true especially when I was picking up the pace. The firmer rubberized foam helped prevent the shoe from feeling like mush or bottoming out. So the Mach 4 adds the split heel swallow-tail design that the Carbon X2 also has. I don't usually land that far back, but I could see it being nice for people that do. The rocker of the midsole helped make this ride super smooth at any pace. So when I first stepped into the Mach 4, I felt that soft top layer and it felt lively and bouncy. But unfortunately, around the 30 or 50 mile mark, the bounciness seemed to start fading away. I can only imagine this is due to Hoka using an airy EVA that gets compressed easily, instead of one of those newer and more durable foam technologies. Because of this, I can't see getting a full 500 miles out of this shoe, or at least not with that same fresh spring in your step that you get right out of the box. Alright, now time to move on to the outsole. For 100 miles, they've held up decently well, but I don't think they'll hold up to the 500 miles. I see some pretty heavy wear in the midfoot and on the toe that have me a little bit worried, but for not having an actual real rubber outsole, I've definitely seen worse. Since the outsole does get sanded down pretty quickly, it's hard to recommend taking these shoes on anything other than the road or treadmill unless it's a flat dirt road. Loose gravel, grass, and trails should probably be avoided in the Mach 4. One thing that is nice about not having a proper outsole is that it does save weight. The Mach 4 is 8 ounces, which is lighter than some carbon-plated racers out there, including the Carbon X2. Alright, now it's time for the run type stoplight portion of the review, where I go through different types of runs and give the shoe a red, yellow, or green light. So I'll go through speed day, everyday, long run day, and recovery day. For speed day, the Hoka Mach 4 gets a green light. So depending on the workout, I typically reach for one of my carbon plated shoes for speed day, but I really wanted to see what the Mach 4 could do, so I left my carbon plated shoes on the shelf and only used this shoe for speed days for a few weeks. So it may not have had that same pop that you get from the carbon plated racers, but I can say that this shoe definitely does great on speed days. So I used this shoe on tempo runs, pickups, progression runs, and I'd say I was averaging around 5:30 minute per mile to 6:10 minute per mile pace in them, and I didn't feel like the shoe was too marshmallowy at all. It actually felt really nice and responsive. For everyday training, the Mach 4 gets a yellow light. So for me personally, for an everyday trainer, I want a shoe that is going to be a workhorse and that is very durable and can take a beating. So unfortunately, with that softer midsole in the Mach 4 and that outsole both having those durability concerns, it's not going to be as durable as I would like for an everyday trainer. But that being said, I still really did enjoy using these for my everyday endurance building runs that I was just going for a moderate pace. For long run day, the Mach 4 gets another green light. So the Mach 4 helped keep my feet and my legs feeling nice and happy after a long run thanks to that thick cushioned midsole. Plus, since the shoe is relatively light, it didn't feel like I had a weight on my feet towards the end of the run. For recovery day, the Mach gets a third green light. So it pretty much seems that no matter the pace, the Mach 4 seems up for the task. When using it on recovery days, I felt like I didn't sink in as much, so I was using more of that softer top foam, so it gave it a nice kind of soft and marshmallowy feel, as opposed to the days where I was picking up the pace. I felt like I was squishing down into the foam more and then sinking into that firmer foam, giving it that more responsive feel. So this means that I really did enjoy using it for recovery days. I felt like it was very easygoing, a nice smooth ride, and although it wasn't as cushioned and kind of soft and bouncy as something like the Clifton, it is definitely a good recovery day shoe. So the Mach 4 gets a fresh makeover, and it went from being kind of a dead feeling, not too exciting up-tempo trainer to this really exciting and versatile shoe. So I really loved this upper. I think it's one of my favorite uppers on pretty much any shoe, but especially Hoka's. And I thought that the midsole had that nice balance of soft cushion, but still a nice responsiveness when picking up the pace. And although there are some durability concerns with that midsole compressing and breaking down, and then the outsole getting shredded quickly, I think that the Mach 4 is definitely a great all-around shoe. Alright, so let's talk about the price of the shoe real quick. So it is $130, and I think for as versatile as this shoe is, coming in at $150 nowadays is kinda rare. So it isn't quite as budget friendly as something like the Rincon, and the price is on par with the Clifton, but I think overall it's a pretty good value for this shoe. Alright, so let's take a look at the results. There is quite a bit of green, which means that this shoe gets a go. That means that if you're in the market for a versatile up-tempo trainer, you should give the Mach 4 a try. So that's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I am curious to see how this shoe compares with the Clifton 8, so make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss me comparing those two shoes. And if you want this sweet TeknoAXE shoes shirt, there is a link in the description. It helps support the channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on running.